Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in. Welcome into another episode of the podcast, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you again today. Talking about something I feel like it doesn't matter if you have kids, this could apply to parenting, it could apply to anything. And let's be honest, pretty much everything I talk about on the podcast, that is true about. That feeling, how often have you had this feeling of like, you know what the right thing to do is, and you're just kind of forcing it, right? Like you know what the right way to respond to somebody is, you know what the right way to show up in the world is, you know what the right thing to do is, and you're doing it. But it's because you're sort of like making yourself do it versus it coming from, this being your organic response to the situation. This is something that I have experienced so many times. It's a thing that I am starting to realize more and more as I do my own personal work is kind of happening all the time. Like I have this idea of, who I'm supposed to be or who it would be best for me to be. And of course, that shows up in my parenting, but it shows up in other times too. I can give you an example. I had a client a while back come to me and say, the way that I just have to tell you that the way that, you coached me the last time that we worked together, it really actually kind of upset me. And, I felt that you were, showing up in ways that I didn't like and blah, 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 blah. And as a practitioner, it's really, really important for me to be able to receive feedback like that, for my clients to feel emotional safety to tell me those things. And also just so that I can get that feedback and be better, I need to be able to receive all of those things. And especially as this person's coach, it's very important for me to respond in a way that takes care of them. And so I know all of those things. So those are all the things that are happening in my mind as a practitioner. This is the correct way to respond to somebody who is giving you this kind of feedback. This is the way that a coach who is doing a good job and is a good coach responds when one of their clients is upset with them and has to process a negative experience that they've had with them. And as a human, I'm sitting there having lots of other thoughts and feelings, right? Like I have feelings about myself, like not productive feelings that would help my client, more just like self-flagellating feelings that I come at myself with, like, oh my gosh, you really screwed up. You should never have talked to her that way. You shouldn't have said this. You knew that she was sensitive about this thing and you said it anyway, whatever. Beating myself up is going on. I also have my own authentic defensive feelings, right? Like, oh, I really think I needed to push her on this thing. And, the fact that she's so reactive about it is exactly why we need to talk about it and blah, 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 like all the excuses or stories that we tell ourselves. So that's also what's going on behind the scenes. And when we look at things through the lens of internal family systems, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately here on the podcast, but also in my coaching work and in my work with myself, we can see that neither of those things are self-led. What do I mean by that? What I mean is I have a self. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, you all have a self. It is maybe your highest nature, your essential nature. Some people might even call it your soul. It's your best version of yourself. It's this part of you that's not a part in IFS terminology. What I mean by that is, it's your beautiful essence that is calm, it's clear, it has compassion for yourself and for everybody else. it explores these things with curiosity, these moments with curiosity. It might be even feels courageous sometimes to like go somewhere new and explore and be open and feel appreciation and gratitude and all those things. That is what in IFS we would call yourself. And when that is the sort of leader of what's going on inside of you, um, things tend to go a lot better. So whether I am acting from this part of me that's like, this is what a good coach would do in this situation when their client comes to them with their, reactive emotions about their coaching, or whether I'm responding from this, part of myself that feels really defensive about how I coach the person because I don't want to feel bad about myself. Or if I'm showing up from that part of myself that feels just really ashamed and embarrassed that I didn't show up well for this client and I did something that hurt her. Either way, in any of those three scenarios, if that is the part of me that is leading, that is taking over, I am not being led by self. My behaviors, my responses, the way I show up with this client is not being led by self. And of course, you can see this applies to pretty much every single moment of our lives. If you're a parent, I mean, how often are you parenting from self? Are you a self-led parent, or are you being led by these different parts of yourself? Maybe the part of you that thinks that kids are supposed to be a certain way. They're the part of you that is just really freaking tired and wants their kids to behave so they can get a nap, or the part of you that has listened to this podcast and gotten all these ideas for me about what a good mom is, and you're trying to be that person. Or are you parenting from self? And so that's what I want to talk about today. You already got my confession a little bit, that situation that I had with my client, and how I was I showed up beautifully. Like, her response to me was, thank you so much. I feel so safe telling you this stuff. I appreciate everything you're saying. It means so much to me that you acknowledged, my feelings and, your behavior and all of this stuff. It was the perfect response to her. It didn't feel perfect to me because I was responding from a part. I wasn't responding from myself. So even though the response was the correct response and it was really well received by my client, in terms of me showing up in the world authentically and a healthy, healed human, not so much. And that's not that big of a deal in these one-off moments. And sometimes we just have to do that. But the more that we do our kind of own inner work, the more that it's possible for us to show up in those situations, probably still behaving that same way that you're quote unquote supposed to, but in a way that's being led by self, that feels authentic, that doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth or leave you with unresolved, well, but really, what was she thinking to bring this up to me or whatever, and I can tell you a story to illustrate that as well. So maybe like confession B of the podcast today is, that kind of thing happens sometimes. And I'm telling you these two instances where clients have come to me and, confronted me with something that's not working for them about my coaching. I want to be clear that these two examples happened like years apart from each other. This is not something that happens to me every day. Most people who hire me because they really vibe with my style. And and usually that feeling continues. But I'm a human being, and sometimes I miss the mark in my coaching, just like anybody would. So recently had another client, talk to me about something completely different that was going on in my coaching with her that really just wasn't landing with her at all and really rubbed her the wrong way. And, fast forward, right? Because I've been doing this work on myself, working on these things for a long time. I basically had almost the exact same response to her that I had to that first client years ago. But it wasn't something that left a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't have these like other parts that were activated feeling like defensive or ashamed or any of that stuff. It was just showing up attuned to this client. And once again from self. So I felt clear. I felt compassionate. I felt, you know, really curious to hear more from her and understand exactly how, this circumstance had arisen between us. I felt courageous enough to say I was sorry without needing to, feel like that was a wounding experience. So I had all of those self emotions, and that was what was leading my interaction with this client. And it made it a clean interaction, if that makes sense. Walk away afterwards, and it really went well, and I felt complete with it, and all of those things. And so I want you to kind of think about, how does this show up in your parenting, this like self-led parenting? Or if you're not a parent and you're listening to this podcast, how does this show up in your other interactions? Doesn't have to be a parent-child relationship whatsoever. All this stuff applies to everything. So I'm going to kind of give you an example from a client of mine, a third client, totally different scenario. So this client had been working with me for a while, and one of the things that she was working on was walking away when her kiddo was upset, and really just giving her kid space to be with her emotions and know that her emotions were actually like something that she was working through. Now, this person's child was 12 at the time. So preteen, extremely developmentally appropriate to allow our 12-year-olds to have space and time to be with themselves and be with their emotions and own their emotions or reflect on their emotions and let their nervous system take care of them, and all of that great stuff. But it was hard for this mom. And when we first started working together, she was able to identify, like, okay, yeah, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do. And she was actually even able to do it. But a lot of the sort of fallout from that was feeling maybe guilty that she had done that, feeling, like, oh, something she had kind of had to like force herself to do. Even when she saw that it actually was helpful to her daughter, and that her daughter was doing much better, and their relationship was so much better when mom didn't get all like sucked into the drama spiral whenever it happened. Even then, it still felt like, okay, well, this is the thing that I learned from my coach, so I'm going to do it, right? There was that part of her that's like, I know what the right thing to do is, so I'm going to do it. And that was where she was parenting from. She was parenting from the, you know, definition of a good mom part. And luckily we're working together, we're doing more coaching. So, that's not the end, right? Like, this is what we get when we read a parenting book or a relationship book. Like, maybe you read a book like Codependent No More, or you read a book about how to talk so kids can listen, or you even read like Conscious Parent by Dr. Shafali, all that great stuff. That those books are basically telling us or informing that part of us what a good parent is and what we're supposed to do as parents. Even the Love and Logic books, which I love Love and Logic. If you work with me on parent coaching, if that's why you hire me, I'm going to teach you a couple of Love and Logic techniques for sure. But it doesn't matter what the technique is you learned if you're utilizing that technique from a part instead of from self. It's really still this thing that you're making yourself do or forcing yourself to do. And this is, in my opinion, one of the myriad reasons why coaching is so much more impactful than just reading a book about whatever self-growth thing you're trying to work on. Because, okay, cool, this mom learned this skill and she was even implementing it, but it still was something that, she had to make herself do. She didn't like it. It felt yucky. And we were working on that, right? So when she's coming to coaching, it's not really about teaching skills anymore. She already got the skill. It's, let's figure out what's making this feel yucky for you. Let's make this easier for you. Let's figure out, like, what does your system need so that doing this thing that maybe intellectually is the thing you want to do isn't something you have to force, and you can do it from self. And so we did awesome, great sort of inner work together over a series of sessions and stuff like that. And she came to this session, later on in our practice, and was just glowing. And I'm like, Okay, spill it. What's going on? And she basically said that similar situation, her kiddo just completely self-destructed, and she left. She actually left. She went to Starbucks or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, well, that's great. And I know that's what you've been working on and you've been doing that already. What was different about it this time for you? Because you seem like just, on cloud nine right now. And she basically said, it felt good to do it. I wrote down a few quotes because I actually re-listened to my recording of the session so that I could have like the details to share with you. She said, I left and I felt good, not guilty. It just felt really good and it felt like the right thing to do. And I said, and she said, like, this is what I've been trying to do all along. This is what I wanted to do. I knew it was the right thing. And, and then she basically said, basically, I just felt like I had permission to follow what my gut was saying the whole time. And to me, that is the beautiful work that I do with clients, whether we're working on parenting stuff, when we're working on relationship stuff or life stuff, it doesn't matter. Like we have a self, right? Like her gut was telling her this whole time that like what this kid needs is space without judgment, without shame, without, any baggage. And I know that that's what I want to give to her. Like I know what the right thing to do is. And it was so hard for her to do that because while she was doing it, she was also having all these other things coming in, this guilty feeling and this worry that maybe she was hurting her kiddo, or this feeling that she was just running away from something that was really her responsibility or whatever. So it was really hard for her to do. And I just want to stress that there's a million reasons why we don't want this to be hard for you. But one of like a really practical reason is like, if it sucks, you're not going to do it. It's going to be really hard to maintain. And after a while, you're just going to fall off that wagon. Right. So even if you're not thinking about this from a place of like, oh, I just want to love my life, I want to feel good, whatever, even if you're just thinking about it from that same part that's like, I want to be a good mom or a good parent, and I'm going to do the right thing. Even when I don't want to, I want to do the right thing. Even that part could probably get on board with the idea that the less uncomfortable, the less unpleasant, the more organic this doing the right thing feels to you, the more likely you are to do it. Like doing this inner work and removing all of this resistance that we have to doing the thing we're quote unquote supposed to do, it helps us do the thing we're supposed to do. So even if that's the only reason why you want to do this inner work, it's so worth it. But, as we kept talking, this client and I, you know, it really became so much clearer, like more and more clear as we were talking that, when we do that inner work, it's not just like I have to do this stuff, even though it feels like crap. It's just doesn't feel like crap anymore. And you just start to naturally, organically show up in the world from that place of intuition. The thing that you knew you needed to do the whole time, you can do it now. Not only can you do it, but it's kind of easy and, dare I say, like enjoyable to do it. This is what self-led parenting looks like, or self-led anything looks like, you know. And that's kind of the message that I want to hit home for all of you today, whatever's listening to this. Like, doing the right thing shouldn't feel terrible, but it does sometimes until we work on our own stuff. And that's the work that I do with my clients. So, it makes perfect sense that if our kids need something from us, but we're, all wrapped up in our parts and our codependencies and all of that stuff, parenting is going to feel awful. Giving them what they need is going to feel awful. We're going to start feeling like we're abandoning them, or we have an agenda to change them. And we're hoping we leave and give our kids space, it makes them be different next time or whatever. All of that stuff, it just brings all this like tension and urgency and desperation and shame and all of that stuff into our parenting. All of those things that come in, those are all parts of you that we can work with and help to relax away. And then you get to just do the thing that you know is right to do. without feeling guilty about it, without feeling resistance to it. That intuition is huge and it's in you. And you can not just be aware of it, but follow it smoothly and effortlessly when you're doing that sort of inner work. And the other thing I loved about this story with this mom was like, I didn't tell her to leave her, to go take space. That's what she knew was the right thing to do. So, when she told me, like, it's basically like all of a sudden I have permission to follow what my gut was saying all along, the whole time. I wasn't her gut. I'm not the one who is telling her what to do. She knew what to do. And it became clear and clearer and clearer to her, and not just clear, but actionable and easy to her the more that she did that work with herself. And I think that's another really important thing about coaching that people maybe don't understand is it's not my job to tell you what to do. It's my job to know that you already know what to do and help you uncover that, if that makes sense. So I'll give you one last example and then end for today. So still recording a lot of these podcast episodes like on the heels of the fall retreat. So you might be listening to this I'm looking at my notes. You're probably listening to this in November, but for me, October was just the October retreat was just a week or so ago. And one of the conversations we had at the retreat that I thought was so powerful was literally a conversation about getting our kids to pick up, or the people in our house, not just our kids. In this example, this person was talking about their partner and their kids, just not picking up after themselves, and how it drove this person crazy. And she's like, well, what am I supposed to do about that? Like, should I, like, if I clean up, yeah, the house is clean, but now I'm like resentful. If I don't clean up, then I have to live in a messy house, which also I really dislike, et cetera, et cetera. And basically my answer to her was like, I actually don't know what you should do, but you do. Like, self knows, but right now you're not accessing self because you have these parts that are, kind of taking up all of the floor space, right? Like your part that wants the house to be clean and she decides to clean up and then feels resentful. And then the part that wants the house to be clean but doesn't clean up and then just sits in squalor. Like, these parts are the things that are chirping the most and getting the most attention. And in order for us to discover what is the right course of action for you to take, we first have to address all the things that are blocking you from knowing that. And I have no idea what solution you'll come up with once you do that work. Like, I'm sure it'll be the best solution for you. And it might be something you've never thought of at all before, or it might be something you're already doing, but we are not doing it from self. So it feels terrible and it creates all this resentment, stuff like that. So I probably cleaned my house simultaneously less than I did before, but more than I thought I was supposed to. And what I mean by that is when I was younger, my house had to be clean. It just had to be like everything needed to be exactly where it belonged, or I just couldn't feel okay. So I cleaned a ton. Then when I kind of got a little bit further in my work, I realized like, well, it's my family's job to clean up after them. And it's my job to like hold that container for them so that they learn these skills. So I started cleaning way less. And I would leave messes and, and then hold boundaries about, what, I'm happy to take you out for ice cream as soon as your room is clean. Or, I would love to read this story with you, but unfortunately, the living room is a mess and I just can't concentrate on a book when my living room is a mess. Those kinds of boundaries. And so I would clean very little. I would discipline a lot, but clean a little. Nowadays, I don't need to do either of those things. Like, the part of me that needs the house to be immaculate, it's just really calm and chill inside of me right now. So I'm not activated by that anymore. And the part of me that thinks that it's my job to make sure my kids learn how to clean and be good, like, members of my household also has gotten what the TLC that it needs from me. And so it's pretty chill. So now sometimes I clean and sometimes I don't. And when I do and when I don't, it's because I just feel like it. And so my cleaning and my not cleaning are both, I would say, for the most part, self-led choices that I'm making. And that's why when I do clean, I often will clean up after my kids, but I don't care. It's completely fine. I'm not resentful about it. Um, and when I don't clean, that's also a choice that I'm making. And it's not coming from this, I'm trying to teach them a lesson thing or anything like that. It's just like, oh, I don't really feel like I need the house to be clean right now, or other things are more important to me. So I'm kind of chilling. And that's it. But this description, which I also gave at the retreat, I could see the faces of the people I was talking to. Was just like, what the hell are you talking about, lady? Like, this is terrible. Like, your kids should clean up after themselves. And, why should we have to do all this personal work so that we don't care if our houses are clean and all of that stuff? And it totally makes sense. Like, that's why the end result is something that we just have to trust is going to reveal itself to us. And whatever it is going to feel good to us because we've done all this work. And that therefore the choice that we make is coming from a place that feels good. I hope that makes sense. Talking about this stuff sometimes like feels like trying to like capture a cloud or something like that. So sometimes it's like we have to just keep coming at it from all different angles and find the one that just really lands. And sometimes it's something we just need to like kind of just put a bunch of confusing stuff inside of our heads and just let it sit there and ruminate and see what comes of it. So I hope that today's podcast episode was one of those two things for you. And time will tell. And if you're ready to kind of do that work with your parts and get kind of curious about what's going on internally for you and just see what emerges once that system, that turbulent system becomes calm and tranquil, what will emerge? Who will you be? How will you relate to your house being messy or your partner being a pain in the butt or your kids, not doing their homework? Time will tell. We don't know. And I certainly don't know what the right answer is for you of what to do other than working with yourself so that the right thing will emerge. I hope that makes sense. I hope that is helpful for you. And if it is, you should be setting up a free discovery call with me. And we can talk about this stuff in way more concrete terms because we can be talking about your specific scenarios, your specific examples, and what specifically is going on internally for you. I can't wait to actually see your name pop up on my calendar. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Bye, everybody. Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.